First of all, it's awesome to be here at the Sun Belt Media Days. For a coach that kind of going through the season we had a year ago, this has been a time I've been waiting for. We've done a lot of great things in our off season, but it's all coming up here in the month of August and this fall. Got two tremendous guys with me today: senior offensive lineman Travis Glover, senior defensive back Brykeese Brown. You'll all get to know, of course, throughout the course of the season. But they're tremendous athletes, tremendous leaders, and they have been a huge part of the kind of reset that we've had this past off season for the last 6 months. I use that term reset because if you know anything about Georgia State and our football season a year ago, it didn't particularly go quite like we had planned. I think we had come into the off season or come into the preseason right there with high expectations, and we go throughout the season. We have leads in 7 of our 8 losses. We lose 6 games by 7 points or less, and we finish our season with a 4-8 record. And when you do that as a football program and a football coach, and me being the head football coach, you have to really ask yourself, what went wrong? What were the factors that we have to deal with and we have to address to move forward with this football program? And I got to thinking, in those leads in the second half of last year, there was one thing in particular that we did when something unfortunate happened, when we struggled. Maybe it was a turnover, a block punt, or whatever would occur. We couldn't rebound as quickly as I wanted us to. For whatever reason, I really couldn't put my finger on it, but it would just happen. I can remember the loss at App State. I think we have a lead there in the second half, and we take the opening possession down, and we fumble a ball, and we couldn't recover there in that ball game. We had another block punt in a situation that shouldn't have ever occurred, but we just couldn't rebound. And so I wanted our entire football team going in, starting in January, and we started truly in January, making a change in our program, not a wholesale change. I didn't think we had to go fix a lot of things, but we certainly had to develop a better mindset to overcome the adversity that we had encountered and what we're going to encounter moving forward. And it really started with a transition in our strength conditioning coach, bringing in a guy that I knew named Mike Siriano that I'd worked with from the University of South Carolina, and he had been in the conference at Appalachian State and done great things. And I knew our football program had to become uncomfortable for the next 6 months. From our coaching staff, to our athletic trainers, to our equipment managers, to every single player on our roster, we had to become uncomfortable. And we had to find situations that we could overcome in the course of those 6 months that were going to better ourselves moving forward in this fall. And I think we hit a home run. This is my 27th year of coaching. I don't think I've been through another off season quite like this. It was exceptional. We developed a tough football team. We were already tough. We developed a physical football team. We developed a mindset where the disciplinarians right now, our players were taking care of everything in general. We as coaches didn't have to step in. The ownership was put on their backs. We had to take those guys places that they really had never been before. And as coaches, we don't talk about that a whole lot. But in this day and age, in this game, and especially with me being the head coach, we had to go places that they couldn't take themselves. We took our football team, our coaching staff, and our program to those areas, and we brought ourselves back out of it. And today, we stand a much stronger football program, team, staff, and everything collectively than we did that day we lost at Marshall, that last game. We utilized an early spring practice so we could get bigger and stronger and have much more time to develop our athletes, to get those guys to being pushed by Coach Siriano and our coaching staff. And it has paid dividends. I think right now we sit in a great position. Preseason is preseason. I don't look at all these preseason rankings all that much. I don't put a whole lot into it because we've had to reset our roster as well. I think we have 12 or so transfer portal guys. We had to bring in guys, so we had to reset our roster. I think when you go out and you have to anticipate that you got 23 or 24 guys that you sign, and then you have to sign an additional 12, it makes it really hard. And we're in a new age that we all really don't know right now on how to really maneuver that, and so we're all learning on the run. But I can tell you the transitional guys that we brought in, the transfers that we brought in have stepped in, and they've stepped right to the plate, and they have worked hard, and they've developed great relationships with these young men right here, our players that are on our staff, and we're ready to come out and compete. Now, I do know one thing. If we have improved in academics, we've improved in our physical nature, we've improved in our mindset, and we take all this stuff into August camp and we improve in that month, then we're going to have a much better chance to be a football team. So those fourth quarter leads that we had a year ago are now becoming fourth quarter victories. And it's all about mindset. I didn't think we really had to change all that much, but we had to take our place somewhere we hadn't taken ourselves in a long time, and we did that. We're prepared. We're physically and mentally strong right now. We're not a cocky group. We certainly can't be. Nobody's talking about Georgia State, rightfully so. But we're a confident group. And so when we take that field come Tuesday morning and we go out there and pursue the Sun Belt Championship, because that's what we're doing, we're pursuing a Sun Belt Championship, then we're going to work ourselves to the very best we can. And we're going to strive every single day to not really think about the losses and how they occurred a year ago, but to really just have that in our back of our mindset and know when you have to push through adversity in that practice, come in that August heat, and we're going to practice in that August heat. Doesn't matter how hot it is, that we will overcome it. And so on that doggone September 1st or the August 31st opener against Rhode Island, we're ready to go out and succeed. And I think it's an awesome time. I'm so excited, and everybody used the term excited. The anticipation for me to start practice is at an all-time high. I can tell you, and I'll share a story. My head coach, when I was a player, he told me a story about one of the worst defeats he ever had. And this was Jerry Moore at Appalachia State that coached me. And it was after a loss at Marshall. And I remember to this day. He said the worst post-game meal, the worst sandwich he ever had was at Marshall University, last game of the year. And I believe that was in 1989. And he said he made a point at that point right there, at that stage after that season, that it wasn't ever going to happen again. And I can remember that doggone post-game meal that we had at Marshall because it was pitiful. And it tasted like crap. I'll just go ahead and be honest with you. And I made that statement. I reflected on that story, and I said, this is not happening again. And it's because of these men, our coaching staff, and a few other changes that we made that we're looking forward to a great season. And I can't wait to see it started. Any questions?
We'll now take questions for Coach Elliott and for the student athletes. For those of you in the room, if you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for a microphone to come to you. And since we're going out live, please state your name and your media affiliation before you ask your question. And for those of you joining us on Zoom, please type your questions into the chat, and I'll read them aloud. And Coach and Travis and Brykees, I have a question for all three of you. First up on Zoom, you won 4 out of 5 at the middle of the season. What was working for you then, and what can you do to avoid those struggles you mentioned at the end of the year?
Yeah. Well, first off, we opened up with a really tough non-conference slate. I mean, let's be honest with you. I don't think if anybody was doing a poll in here, you'd want to start with 2 Power 5 programs right from the start. And it was the case. It was tough. And then you play an Army team in a Charlotte loss that we had right there. But we really became healthy, and we started getting in a groove. We had some early injuries after our North Carolina game where we lost a couple offensive linemen. And if you ask me, when you lose a couple offensive linemen, you have to start mixing, matching that group in there, you start to have some struggles. We all understand that. And we had some other struggles as well with some other injuries. And then we became healthy. And then we made a little run right there at the middle of the year. And I think, I don't want to point Dave out, but then he jinxed us. He said, this kind of reminds me of last year. And I said, God, Dave, why you got to say that? But no, and then we got a little bit of the injury bug, and we just couldn't finish. A couple of those games were very, very tough. And like I said, it was a mindset where one simple thing, maybe it was a fumble or something else would happen, and we would kind of get deflated, and it was very, very hard to overcome. So that's my thoughts. You guys, what do you think?
Yeah, like Coach Elliott talked about, the 4 out of the 5 games that we won, we kind of was bouncing back off guys being injured, so we came out strong and we was able to finish those games. But wrapping up the season, we had a problem with finishing. So this offseason, we really toned in on that, changed the mentality that no matter what happened, there's a block punt, a fumble for 6, it could be for 14, that the mentality is to go attack, and that's not going to stop what's going on.
And also to pick up off of what they said, a big loss for us last year was Blake Carroll. So losing him in injuries last year was kind of a big piece for us. And then, like he said also as well, out of the 4 to 5 games, kind of just trying to find a way to win ball games and come together and go through adversity together. And that's kind of something that we went through this off season, going up Stone Mountain, adversity, and trying to find a pull together for one another and become one as a team.
Weiler, PantherTalk.com.
Right.
You talked a little bit about the new faces, but how much does the stability of having Darren Granger come back as the quarterback, and like what does his leadership mean to the team? And I guess that can also be for Travis as well in the offense.
Yeah, I think everyone wants their starting quarterback return, and when you have your 3-year starting quarterback returning, that feels pretty good. One of the most things that I'm really impressed with Darren is Darren has really become a stronger leader over the last 6 months, and that's because of everything that we've gone through over the last 6 months. That's because of the adversity that we had there in this past season. He starts to have his hand on the back of our team now, so to speak. He was a happy-go-lucky guy a year ago in the previous year, but now he has a little pulse. And we have a group that we call a pulse group. They're kind of the temperature of our team. And now these guys, these two individuals as well, they have a hand on this team, this offense, this defense. So I look for Darren to be a strong leader. He's gained 20 pounds over the course of the 6 months. He's transformed his body. He's done more than what's expected. He's gone out there each and every day with a mindset to be very, very the leader that we need him to be. And I can't wait to see him take the field.
Yeah, like Coach just said, I can't wait to see Darren Granger out there this year and be able to block for him because he's one of the guys that over these 6 months that have made a lot of strides. Like he said, he gained some weight, put on some weight. He's still running the same. He's passing the same. He's an incredible leader. He pushes me to be a better leader because the way he's commanding the offense, the way he gets guys going, just hearing him speak and the things that he says motivates us to just really be behind each other.
Go ahead.
Most definitely, like having Darren is definitely huge for us, especially with him coming back, being a starter, being in the program for multiple years, and just having him to lean on when it gets tough. Sometimes we're going to need him like 3rd and 5, short situations. We know we got Darren where he can do both. He can either throw it or he can run it. So having him in situations like that, Darren's huge for us.
And Coach, a Zoom question along those same lines. Your rushing attack ranked in the top 15 last year between Darren and Marcus Carroll. Will that be a strength again? And how has KZ Adams stepped in to help there?
Yeah, I think anyone that knows me as a head football coach, I've been an offensive line coach for a number of years. So, we want to have an effective running game. We lost 2 great backs a year ago. We actually lost 1 back there towards the end of the season last year. But I think we are very, very fortunate to have a guy like Marcus Carroll back with us. I've said this a number of times throughout the course of today. I think Marcus Carroll may be the very best back that we've had at Georgia State. I call him Mr. Muscle. He's strong. He's physical. He can pass protect. He's powerful. He can do a lot of things for us. So we're going to try to have an effective run game. With a guy like Travis Glover right over here and his comrades beside him, I think we can. And then when you throw in a KZ Adams, KZ Adams is going to be a guy that not a lot of people have heard about. 2 years ago, he was the leading rusher in the entire country. He rushed for over 3,125 yards. And so now we're going to throw him to the mix. He's got an electric-type move. He's silky smooth, and he can really put his foot in the ground and go. So we're anticipating a big season out of our rushing attack. We got to get Travis Glover and the boys right, and I think that's going to be handled quite nicely, and we're going to move forward our rushing attack.
Zoom question, Coach, from Matt Cummings of I Will State Podcast. With there being such an abundance of talent in the Atlanta metro area, and with the resources you have when your university is located in an urban setting, how are you and your staff using the blueprints of schools like UCF and Cincinnati to ensure that Georgia State can experience the same success they have and become one of the premier programs in all of the group of 5?
Well, we are. We're right there in downtown Atlanta, which has its pluses and minuses, just like every other university. We have an abundance of talent. With abundance of talent in the Atlanta, Georgia area, you have an abundance of schools you have to go and compete against. You just got to remember, our football program is turning 14 years old. We're doing everything in our power to get our name and get our program and get our brand throughout the country, not just the Southeast, but the state of Georgia. We're going out and we're always going to recruit the very, very best players that want to come and be a part of Georgia State University, whether it's downtown Atlanta, whether it's Fulton County, Gwinnett, whatever it may be, South Carolina, North Carolina, the state of Florida, wherever it may be. But we've got to go recruit players that want to be at Georgia State. If we're not doing that, if we're persuading guys to have to come to Georgia State in this day and age, guess what? I want to go in the portal, coach. It's not working out so well. So our reputation as far as recruiting, we want to go and identify the players that want to be at Georgia State. Those are the players we want suiting up in the blue and white.
A question for Bryce on Zoom. Your brother plays in the NBA, just won a championship with the Denver Nuggets. With both of you being elite athletes but in different sports, what is more likely? You dropping 10 points in an NBA game or your brother picking off a Sun Belt quarterback?
I'll give him picking off a Sun Belt quarterback. Just because he's 6'5", he's athletic, and you really can't throw the ball over him.
What about you scoring?
Oh, I'm going to get my buckets for sure. There's no question about that.
He can't throw the ball in the ocean, I promise you. You're not scoring if you're sitting on the beach right there.
Another one for Brett Keys. Early impressions, obviously, because you haven't gone through the fall install, but what are your early expectations for what the defense is going to look like under new DC Chad Staggs?
The defense this year under Coach Staggs, he walked in the locker room with instant respect just because we played him the past years at Coastal. So this year I expect us to be more aggressive and, ready to come with it every single game. Every game is going to be a good one. It's going to be a fight, and we're going to be there to take it all.
Kind of just to top off that, in hiring Coach Staggs, you look for somebody that you know. You look for the system that you've been going against, had an opportunity to go and try to defeat him a number of times. He's got great passion for the game. He's got a blueprint for recruiting the Southeast, and he knows the Sun Belt quite well. So, when trying to identify who do you want to go after, who can you go after, and who you can land, for us to land Coach Staggs, I think was a home run.
A question for Travis and Bryce. Across college football, there are always new faces with transfers. How do you go about getting everyone to gel together, especially early in the season?
I feel like that's a big part of Georgia State University. Once guys come in, we kind of all gel together and really become a family. I feel like the extra work, hitting guys up late night after workouts, just to go and just get acquainted with each other, to put in work, to see what passion or what drives them is really what really gel us all together.
One thing I would say about our team, we're together all the time. So doing little things like going to explore Atlanta. Like recently, me and the DBs, we rode the belt line together on bikes just to spend some time together, just to bond together and do little things to understand one another. So that's huge for us.